Hey girls, so in this masterclass we are going to be going through all things food cravings, okay? So first things first, to understand food cravings, we need to understand cravings and we need to understand hunger, right? Cravings first is the intense desire to eat a particular type of food, right? This type of food is usually energy dense foods, kind of like more of our kind of sugary snacks, kind of sweet treats, that kind of style, okay? Usually the chocolate and other chocolate containing foods, right? So with that, that is the desire to eat a certain food, whereas hunger is the absence of fullness, okay? So that is a feeling of hunger that's brought around by an empty stomach, but typically eating anything will mean it solves our hunger, whereas our craving is a particular food, right? So food cravings can usually be only satisfied by the consumption of one particular food, whereas hunger can be alleviated by a consumption of any food, really, okay? So just something to understand on that side first, because sometimes people struggle with understanding the difference between hunger and understanding the difference of cravings as well, okay? So food cravings is usually conditioned response because of internal or external cues, and we will run through that, okay? Why is it that we have the cravings, right? Usually it is because of restrained eaters and from diets as well, right? And there was a study done that showed that people that refrained from eating certain foods reported more cravings for these foods over short periods of several days. So when you do restrict back from something, you're actually craving it more. And this is why it's so important to look at more moderation rather than restriction, okay? So with that, I want to explain the elastic band theory, right? This is a theory I think I've came up with myself. Maybe it's a real theory, but for me, it explains things perfectly when it comes to restriction of foods. If you're telling yourself you're not going to have chocolate anymore, you eat too much of it, I'm not having it anymore, it's bad for me, right? You have an elastic band. And the more that you restrict that food back, the more the elastic band stretches and stretches and stretches and stretches. And it comes to this point where you can feel the tension there and you're like, oh my God, I want the chocolate so bad, but I can't have it, I'm being good. It's not good for me, I'm not going to have it. What happens to that elastic band eventually is that it snaps. And when it snaps, it goes flying. It goes flying forward, right? So the thing with this is that when we have a massive over-restriction, it comes to the point then where we actually go from over-restriction to over-consumption, and we actually overeat that food because we've restricted back for so long. So the real thing that we want to actually focus on is the moderation piece, where we just have the elastic band as it is. We don't have it stretched, so it's not flinging forward. It's just sitting where it is, and it's having that moderation. So in terms of the theories of cravings then, right, the first one is our internal cues. So this is all based around our emotions and our feelings, okay? So fear, stress, anxiety, joy, pleasure, boredom are common feelings that do affect our eating patterns, okay? When we are feeling fear, stress, we usually turn to food as a form of like self-soothing or coping mechanism, okay? There was a study done on emotions, right? And it showed that basically when we are feeling emotions, especially negative emotions, they were more associated to higher tendencies of using food as a coping mechanism, right? So when we are feeling intense feelings, we turn to foods that we feel are going to comfort us and make us feel better, okay? Just something to be aware of on that side, okay? And the thing with it as well is that when we do have like anxiety, fear, feeling sad, feeling like overwhelmed, we usually turn to food because it is giving us that kind of regulation, okay? So we want to develop better coping mechanisms. And how do we do that? This is the one that's really, really helpful, okay? When you are feeling a little bit scattered and you're thinking to turn to food, it's like sit down on a chair, right? Put your back against the chair, feet firmly on the floor. Focus on the connection points. Your feet on the floor, your bum on the chair, your back off the chair. Think of the box breathing, right? A box has 4 sides. What we're going to do is we're going to inhale through our nose for 4. We're going to hold for 4. We're going to exhale for 4. We're going to hold for 4. And when you're doing it, I want you to count in your head. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And keep doing that, right? And it depends on the person. It could take a couple of rounds to do that. But when you start to feel like, okay, I actually am feeling more regular. Actually, I'm feeling more present, more connected. Ask yourself, how am I actually feeling? Am I sad? Am I hungry? Am I bored? Am I snackish? And then we actually understand how we are actually feeling. Oftentimes we're just trying to distract ourselves rather than actually sitting with it and going, okay, what's coming up for me right now? How am I feeling? Okay? The second theory is more of your external cues and your social environment. So these are things like, watching your favorite TV show and you're just in a habit of actually eating popcorn or eating ice cream while watching it because it's that little bit more of a wind down, right? But the other side of that as well is like, family and friends having it. So you come into the kitchen, next thing your family are having cake or they're having biscuits and tea and you're like, oh, fuck it, I'd love that now. And it's just because they're having it that we're like, oh yeah, we're going to jump into that as well. We weren't even thinking of it. But now that they're having it, it's like, yeah, fuck it, we're going to have it as well. The third one then is poor sleep, and we talk about this so much, right? And I know you girls know this by now, but when we have less sleep, our ghrelin hormone increases. There's two hormones, there's leptin and there's ghrelin. Ghrelin is the one that makes us harder to feel full or satiated, whereas leptin is the one that helps us feel full, okay? When we have less sleep, our ghrelin hormone increases, okay? Which means it's find it harder to stay full or stay satiated, which is why it's important to get decent sleep in every single night. Not 4, not 5, not 6 hours, ideally 7 hours minimum per night, right? To help us to be rested and also to manage our hormones that little bit better, and also for proper recovery as well, and to be able to actually be a human. It's important that we get proper sleep, okay? But the main thing here as well is understanding that if we are getting poor sleep, we need to make sure that we're getting good balanced meals in, a little bit more protein, a little bit more veggies, and understanding that you will feel that, but it is a case of adding those in will help us to manage that hunger that little bit better. The fourth one then is deprivation. So the side of actually over restricting, like the elastic band theory, the more that we pull ourselves back from a food because we can't have that, the more we're going to want it, the more the craving intensifies, okay? So that's why it's important to, if you really want a food, is to allow moderation, okay? The first thing we need to do though in terms of all of these is actually analyse our nutrition right now. First, are we eating well-balanced meals during the day? Our proteins, carbs, fats and veggies, micronutrients, okay? Are we having the 4 pillars of nutrition in every single meal? And if we're missing some of these, it could be a reason why you are actually craving some foods, right? How is our sleep? Are we getting enough sleep? Are we having loads of caffeine before we go to bed, getting shit night's sleep, and then it's just a loop again and again and again and again? And that's going to be really, really important, is to manage these, our nutrition, our sleep, and then ask ourselves, how are we actually feeling? Is this emotional based? And if it is, coming back to our toolbox technique, our journaling, our drawing, our painting, things that help us regulate our nervous system and sit with ourselves and figure out how we are actually feeling and actually use it as a more positive coping mechanism. The one thing I'll say about cravings is, if you are craving something like, I fucking love an ice cream right now, okay, leave it 20 minutes. If you still want it after 20 minutes, have it, honour it, but let yourself sit with it, because oftentimes we have a craving, it comes on instantly and we're like, yeah, chocolate, oh wow, grab it. Then we end up over consuming on it. So take a breather, give yourself 20 minutes, do something else, and if you still want it after 20 minutes, have it, honour it, and we're good, okay? So just to bring it back a little bit, usually cravings are emotional reactions, right? But sometimes it can be because of nutrient deficiency. So this is why it is important that we look after our nutrition. And if it's not where it should be, if we have key components of our nutrition missing, we need to fix that, okay? Otherwise these cravings are going to continue. There also is the other side of, if our hormones are out of whack or not at optimal levels, it can intensify cravings as well, which is important that we do manage our habits better, manage our nutrition better. And if it is a case where these things keep popping up, it's like going and getting your bloods taken to check your hormone levels and see how things are sitting, okay? The key here is building better nutritional habits. It should be 80-20 when it comes to our diet. 80% whole nutritious foods, 20% of the foods that we enjoy, to bring it to that 100% and have it more balanced, okay? If we're 50-50, we're not at optimal in terms of looking after our health and having a good basis of our diet and our nutrition as well, okay? So key takeaways is hunger and cravings are different. There's many factors that can cause cravings, from lack of sleep, social environment, external cues and deprivation. Recognizing the trigger is key, right? This is your key right here, is recognizing the trigger. But we still need to figure out where the frickin' lock is. And the lock here is understanding how we can manage that trigger. So once you have the understanding of how you can manage a trigger and you know what the trigger is, you put those together and you are literally flying it, right? We have figured out what the trigger is, but also how to handle it. And that is winning, right? So that is everything. Any questions on that, just shout and I'll chat to you soon. Have a good one.